Between 1908 and 1937, Napoleon Hill interviewed 500 of America's wealthiest men. He discovered that the difference between them and the 95% who remained poor wasn't in intelligence, background, or opportunity. It lay in 3 actions that the poor performed every day. Without realizing, they were building their own prison. This wasn't among the 13 obvious principles. It was a behavioral pattern Hill recorded in his private notes on the failures he observed. He called it the mechanism of silent self-sabotage, a force that acts even before the first step is taken, and you're about to recognize it in your own routine. Andrew Carnegie was 73 years old when he challenged Napoleon Hill to a 20-year undertaking. Carnegie wasn't just interested in sharing success stories. He wanted Hill to pinpoint the exact mechanism that separated men who became rich from those who toiled endlessly without ever getting ahead. Hill accepted. He spent 2 decades interviewing Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Charles Schwab, and John D. Rockefeller. He meticulously documented every routine, every habit, every decision. But what he didn't expect to uncover was this. The most consistent pattern wasn't among the wealthy, it was among the poor. Men equally intelligent, equally determined, equally informed about the principles of success, who consistently failed at the very same point. Hill recorded this in his private notes. He called them invisible habits, not because they were secret, but because no one recognized them as they were doing them. And these habits formed a system, 3 gears that turned together, locking any real movement toward wealth. You are about to see these 3 gears, and once you're done, you won't be able to ignore them anymore. Hill documented this in 1919, after interviewing 327 men who had failed in their own businesses over the previous 5 years. All of them had read books on success. All of them understood the principles of persistence, applied faith, and burning desire. And all of them failed at precisely the same point. 5 seconds after setting a clear goal, they would do something that killed the possibility of achieving it. It wasn't a lack of effort, it wasn't a lack of knowledge, it was a specific action, a mental move so common it seemed harmless. Hill called it negotiating with the future. It was the act of conditioning today's action on a perfect future event that never arrives. A man sets a goal on Monday. By Tuesday, he's already waiting for the right moment, when external conditions improve, when money is less tight, when he has more energy, more clarity, more certainty, and the goal dies right there, not through conscious abandonment, but through continuous postponement disguised as prudence. Henry Ford had a saying that Hill recorded in 1923, "Getting started is the secret." And getting started means cutting off conversations with the future and doing what can be done today, even if the plan is imperfect. But here's the problem. The human mind is designed to avoid risk, and every real action carries risk. So the mind negotiates. It offers a seemingly reasonable deal. I'll do this. When that happens, it sounds logical. It sounds responsible, but it's a trap. Hill interviewed a man named Robert Callahan in 1921. Callahan was 28 years old, worked as an accountant in Chicago, and dreamed of opening his own firm. He had the technical knowledge. He had 3 clients ready to move with him. He had the burning desire that Hill so often preached about. And he spent 2 years waiting for the right moment. First, he waited to save up 6 more months of reserves. He did. Then he waited for his wife to finish her nursing degree to have a second safety income. She did. Then he waited for the market to stabilize after the 1920 recession. When he finally decided to act, the 3 clients had already signed with other accountants. The window had closed. Callahan didn't fail due to a lack of planning. He failed because he conditioned action on a sequence of external events that would never perfectly align at the same time. This is negotiating with the future. And 95% of people execute this negotiation every day without realizing it. Do you recognize this in your own life? How many times have you set a clear goal and 5 seconds later started listing the conditions that need to happen before you act? When I have more time, when I have more money, when I have more experience, when I feel more prepared. This isn't prudence, it's the first invisible habit, and it kills the goal before you even take the first step. Hill recorded this in a letter to Andrew Carnegie in 1922. The man who waits for the perfect moment never acts, because the perfect moment is an illusion created by fear, disguised as reason. And Carnegie replied, "The perfect moment is now. It always has been. Say this out loud: today's action is non-negotiable. This is the first gear of the system. It locks up movement before you even get started, but it doesn't act alone. The second gear kicks in the exact moment you try to begin. And this second gear is even more treacherous because it disguises itself as productivity." What you just heard completely changes how you look at your own daily life. And pay close attention, because Hill always said, you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That's why I built Rich Mind, a free community for those who take these principles seriously. Inside, you'll find the 17 principles, a 21-day planner to rewire your mind, a summary library, and a vibrant community where people from all over the world exchange ideas every single day. The link is in the pinned comment. Join today, because those who wait for the perfect moment never start. Now, answer me one thing, and answer it for yourself. No need to comment. How many times have you set a goal, and within the first 5 seconds thought about when you'd start? Not right now. That answer reveals more about your financial future than any course you could ever buy. And the second habit is even more dangerous, because it makes you feel like you're doing well, while keeping you exactly where you are. In 1925, Napoleon Hill interviewed Charles M. Schwab, president of Bethlehem Steel and one of America's wealthiest men. Schwab had a peculiar routine. Every morning, before any meetings, he would take a sheet of paper and write down the 6 most important tasks for the day. Not 10, not 20, 6. And here's the detail most people overlook. He wasn't writing down urgent tasks. He was writing down important tasks. There was a brutal difference between the two. An urgent task is one that screams, that appears as an emergency, that demands immediate attention. An important task is one that builds wealth, that moves the business forward, that generates real results. And most people spend their entire day putting out fires, while avoiding the one important task that truly matters. Hill called this the escape to busyness. It's the second invisible habit, and it's the most treacherous of all, because it masquerades as hard work. You end the day exhausted, feeling like you've accomplished a lot, but when you look back, you realize you haven't moved forward at all. Andrew Carnegie had a quote that Hill recorded in 1918. "The coward's refuge is purposeless occupation." It sounds harsh, but it's surgically precise, because the human mind avoids discomfort. And every important action carries discomfort. Making the difficult call, writing the proposal that might be rejected, making the decision with no guarantees. So the mind offers an escape, doing something that seems productive but carries no real risk. Answering emails, organizing files, watching another course, reading another book. This soothes the guilt. You feel like you're working, but you're not building anything. Hill interviewed a man named William Hartley in 1923. Hartley was 32 years old, lived in Detroit, and dreamed of opening his own auto repair shop. He had saved enough for the first month's rent. He had identified the ideal commercial location. He had drawn the workshop layout on paper. And he spent 6 months fine-tuning the plan, redesigning the layout, researching suppliers, comparing tool prices, calculating profit margins in different scenarios. Was all of this important? Yes. But none of it was the action that would open the shop. The action that would open the shop was one, signing the lease agreement, and Hartley never signed, because while he was fine-tuning the plan, he was busy. And while he was busy, he didn't have to face the real risk of putting his name on the contract and finding out if the business would work or not. When he finally decided to sign, the commercial spot had already been rented to another business. And Hartley went back to his factory job, feeling like he had done everything right, but that the timing hadn't worked out. Timing wasn't the problem. The escape to busyness was. Do you recognize this? How many hours have you spent organizing, planning, researching, adjusting, without ever taking the one action that truly matters? This isn't preparation. It's procrastination disguised as productivity. And 95% of people fall into this trap every day. Hill documented this in a 1924 note. The man who occupies himself without building is digging his own grave with the feeling that he is planting seeds. And Thomas Edison, in a conversation with Hill in 1926, said something even more direct. Busy is what you do when you're afraid to do what matters. Say this out loud. Busy is not the same as productive. This is the second gear. It locks your focus, keeps you spinning in place with the illusion of movement. And when you finally manage to break that gear and take the first real step, the third gear kicks in. And this one is the most devastating of all, because it acts at the exact moment you start to see the first results. You're looking at the mechanism. Now you need to destroy it. That's why I created the Mental Reprogramming Planner, a 21-day system based on neuroscience and Napoleon Hill's principles to eliminate procrastination, build real discipline, and reprogram your mind for high performance. It's not motivation. It's surgery. The link is in the pinned comment of this video. Napoleon Hill spent 3 months shadowing Thomas Edison in 1926. Edison, then 79 years old, was still logging 16-hour days in his lab. Hill wanted to grasp what fueled such intense dedication in a man of that age. What he uncovered was unsettling. Edison didn't celebrate victories. He simply documented them and moved on. He'd test a filament. It worked. He'd note it down, then test the next. No pause, no celebration, no rest. Hill inquired why. Edison's reply, because success demands acceleration, not rest. Momentum is everything, and momentum dies the second you stop to celebrate. This struck Hill as brutal. Yet when he analyzed the 327 failure cases he documented, he found the inverse pattern. All the men who failed shared a common trait. They ceased accelerating the moment they achieved their first small victory. Hill dubbed this the punishment of the first victory. It's the third invisible habit, and it's the most insidious of all, because it strikes when you least expect it. When you've finally taken the first step, when you've finally seen the first result, when you've finally begun to feel you're on the right track, and then you relax. Not consciously. You don't decide to stop, but the mind interprets that first victory as proof that the system works. And if the system works, there's no longer such urgency. You can slow down, you can breathe, you can rest a little, and the momentum dies. Hill documented this in 1928 in a letter to Andrew Carnegie. The man who celebrates the first victory before achieving the 10th is digging his own grave with a champagne glass in his hand. Carnegie responded, "The first victory is the most dangerous because it convinces a man he's already mastered the game. And the second he thinks he's understood it, he stops playing with the intensity that brought him there." Hill interviewed a man named Daniel Forrest in 1927. Forrest was 36, lived in Pittsburgh, and had just opened a hardware store. For the first 3 months, he worked 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. He visited every customer personally, met every supplier, adjusted inventory with surgical precision, and in the fourth month, he doubled his projected revenue. Forrest celebrated. He took a Sunday off. He spent the next week working 10 hours instead of 12. After all, the business was thriving. It no longer needed that insane intensity of the first few months. In the fifth month, revenue dropped. In the sixth, it dropped further. By the seventh, Forrest was working 12 hours again, but now just putting out fires. And in the eighth month, he closed the store. What happened? Forrest didn't change his plan, didn't change his product, didn't change his strategy. He changed his intensity, and intensity was the only factor that truly mattered. Hill recorded this in a 1928 note: "Success isn't achieved once, it's re-achieved every day, with the same intensity as the first day. And the man who relaxes after the first victory is merely postponing inevitable defeat." Does this sound exaggerated? Then look at your own life. How many times have you started something, seen the first results, and then slowed down? How many times have you interpreted the first victory as permission to relax? And how many times did that project die soon after? The punishment of the first victory isn't about denying celebration. It's about understanding that victory isn't the end of the effort. It's proof that the effort is working. And that means only one thing: accelerate. Thomas Edison tested 10,000 filaments, not because he enjoyed failing, but because he didn't allow himself to celebrate filament 9,999 as if it were the last. He knew that momentum is built by continuous acceleration, not by strategic pauses. Henry Ford documented this in 1922 in a conversation Hill recorded. "The man who stops to celebrate the first sale will never make the second, because the second sale requires the same effort as the first, and if he relaxed after the first, he no longer has the energy for the second." Say this aloud: success demands acceleration, not rest. This is the third gear, and it doesn't act alone. It works in conjunction with the first two, creating a perfect system of self-sabotage. The negotiation with the future prevents you from starting. The escape to busyness prevents you from focusing. And the punishment of the first victory ensures that even when you make progress, momentum dies before generating real wealth. Together, these three habits form the invisible architecture of poverty. And 95% of people live within this architecture without ever recognizing it. Napoleon Hill completed his research in 1937, 29 years after accepting Andrew Carnegie's challenge. He had interviewed 500 wealthy men and another 400 who had failed. And when he put the data side by side, he saw something no one else had. The three invisible habits weren't independent. They formed a system. One gear turned the next, which turned the next, creating a self-reinforcing cycle. Bargaining with the future created the illusion that you were being prudent by waiting for the right moment. While waiting, you'd fall into escape to busyness, doing tasks that seemed productive but didn't require real risk. And if by chance you managed to break these two gears and take the first step, the punishment of the first victory would kick in, ensuring you relaxed at the exact moment you should accelerate, and the cycle would restart. Hill called this the invisible architecture of poverty, not because it was complex, but because no one saw it while living within it. Andrew Carnegie had foreseen this in 1908 when he challenged Hill to document the difference between the rich and the poor. Carnegie said, "The difference isn't in what they know, it's in what they do with what they know. And most men know what they need to do, but build a mental architecture that prevents them from doing it." Hill took 29 years to understand what Carnegie meant. And when he did, he realized the solution wasn't in learning new principles, it was in destroying the habits that prevented principles from working. In 1936, Hill interviewed a man named Edwin C. Barnes. Barnes was 42 years old and a partner of Thomas Edison. But he didn't start that way. He began as an unpaid assistant, cleaning Edison's laboratory in exchange for the opportunity to learn. Hill asked Barnes how he had broken the invisible architecture, and Barnes replied with a sentence that Hill recorded word for word: "I didn't bargain with the future. I didn't get busy without building, and I didn't celebrate the first victory as if it were the last." Hill asked for more details, and Barnes explained, "When I decided to work with Edison, I didn't wait for the right moment. I took the train the next day, even without money for the return ticket. When I arrived at the lab, I didn't keep adjusting the plan. I did the only thing that mattered. I asked to work for free until I proved my worth. And when Edison gave me the first real opportunity, I didn't relax. I worked as if I was still proving my worth, because I still was." Barnes understood something most people never do. The invisible architecture only exists because you allow it to exist. And you allow it because it's comfortable, because it protects you from risk, from rejection, from failure. But it also protects you from success. Hill documented this in 1937 in the conclusion of Think and Grow Rich. "The man who builds his own mental prison will never be freed by another. He needs to recognize the bars, understand how they were erected, and tear them down with his own hands." And Charles Schwab, in a letter to Hill in 1935, wrote, "Freedom is not the absence of limitation. It is the awareness that you yourself built the limitations. And if you built them, you can destroy them." Are you seeing it now? The 3 invisible habits aren't isolated flaws, they are a system. And this system keeps 95% of people trapped in a cycle of effort without results. Bargaining with the future prevents starting. Escape to busyness sabotages focus. The punishment of the first victory kills momentum. Together, they ensure you work hard, feel exhausted, and never get anywhere. But here's the truth Hill took 29 years to document. The system only works as long as you don't recognize it. The second you see the gears, they lose their power. Because now you know. You see bargaining with the future when it appears. You recognize escape to busyness before you fall into it. You identify the punishment of the first victory at the exact moment it tries to make you relax. And if you see it, you can choose differently. Henry Ford told Hill something in 1923 that sums it all up. "The difference between the man who gets rich and the man who stays poor is not the size of the obstacle. It is the speed with which he recognizes the obstacle and chooses to tear it down. You have just recognized the obstacle. Now all that's left is the choice." Napoleon Hill interviewed 500 wealthy men and 400 who had failed. But there's one detail he never published. A pattern that appeared in only 7 men out of his entire research. Men who not only broke the invisible architecture, but reversed it to their advantage. They transformed the 3 habits that lead to poverty into 3 habits that generate exponential wealth. Hill called this a polarity inversion, and he documented the exact process in his private notes from 1934. This process was never included in the 13 Principles. Hill considered publishing it, but Carnegie advised him against it. Not because it was a secret, but because most people weren't ready to apply it, and applying it without being ready would cause more harm than good. This process is documented, and it works. From today onward, these habits are no longer invisible to you. You've seen future negotiation. You've recognized the escape to busyness. You've identified the first victory punishment. And now you know they don't act alone. They form a system, a mental architecture that keeps 95% of people working hard and dying poor. But you are no longer part of that 95%, because the system only works as long as you don't see it. And you just saw it. This isn't motivation, this isn't theory, this is surgery. Napoleon Hill spent 29 years documenting the difference between those who get rich and those who stay poor. And the difference wasn't in intelligence, luck, or opportunity. It was in 3 simple actions that the poor performed every day without realizing it. And now you realize you've become someone who sees the mechanism, someone who no longer negotiates with the future, waiting for the perfect moment, someone who doesn't get busy without building, someone who doesn't relax after the first victory as if it were the last. You are someone who knows that success isn't achieved once. It's re-earned every single day with the same intensity as the first day. And that momentum isn't built by strategic pauses, but by continuous acceleration. Andrew Carnegie told Napoleon Hill in 1908, "The man who recognizes his own prison is the only one who can escape it." And you just recognized it. Now all that's left is action. And action isn't complex. It doesn't require extraordinary resources. It doesn't require waiting for the right moment. It requires only one thing: starting now. So grab a sheet of paper and a pen. Not tomorrow, not after this video, now. Right at the top of the page, the most important action you've been avoiding. The one you know will move your life forward, but which you've been postponing because you're waiting for the right moment, or because you're busy with other things, or because you already took the first step and thought you could relax. Write that action, and below it, write this. This action is non-negotiable. I will not fill my time with tasks that don't build. I will not relax after the first victory. I will accelerate. Place that sheet where you'll see it when you wake up tomorrow. On your nightstand, on your bathroom mirror, on the refrigerator door, somewhere you can't ignore it. And when you wake up tomorrow, read what you wrote and execute the action. Don't negotiate. Don't get busy with urgencies. Don't celebrate before finishing. Execute. This is your declaration of war against the invisible architecture, against the 3 habits that keep 95% of people trapped, against the illusion that the problem is in the world out there and not in the action you haven't yet taken. Napoleon Hill took 29 years to document this. Thomas Edison tested 10,000 filaments to prove this. Henry Ford built an empire by applying this, and you just received this for free. Now all that's left is for you to do what they did. Recognize the system, destroy the gears, and rebuild the mental architecture that generates wealth. You are no longer part of the 95% who work hard and die poor. You are part of the 5% who see the mechanism and choose differently. The choice has already been made. Now all that's left is to execute.